Okay, welcome everybody to the Murray Amateur Radio Club's Thursday club meeting. Today we are going to talk about a few things. First, I'm going to pause this because these announcements really don't need to be recorded. Okay, so tonight we are going to talk about a couple of things. The first thing we're going to talk about is based on a document that I sent everybody that I'm actually going to resend because I missed an elementary school on there. So be prepared to receive another document to replace the one that you just had. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share that document. Can everybody see said document?
I see it.
Okay, great.
I can.
Okay, great. So during Salt Lake County Aries meeting last night, it was decided that we are going to have a safe neighborhood event, which is a practice event. Which, if you've read the purpose, if you read this document in your email, you'll know all about it. What we want to do with our club is make sure that people who are dispatched to each of the elementary schools that they'll be able to contact net control, which will be in the EOC. And so, again, the purpose of this event is to ensure that the elementary schools in Murray City, and there's 9 of them, can be manned by a ham radio operator, and communication for each operator is successfully demonstrated and orchestrated, so that we need to identify if there's any issues now before the actual disaster. So during the event, and we don't know the exact day of the event, but members of MARC, since we're in Murray City, you'll get a call out from myself or Joey on your phones. I was going to say, or pagers. I don't know too many people that still have pagers. And we're all going to first arrive at the EOC, and then you'll get your assignments to go to the various elementary schools. And because there are 9, I need to, hopefully we'll have at least 9 participants in this. Actually 10, because we need a net control operator. And so what will happen is when you go to the elementary school, again, like I said, we'll all meet at the EOC, Murray Fire Station 83, and receive our assignments. Each operator will then travel to the assigned school and inform net control that they have arrived using their HT. Once you have notified net control of your arrival, then you will describe to net control the areas that could be used for operations. In other words, here's a close-up of Longview Elementary. There's the school there. There's the playground. There's a parking lot. There's another part of the playground. And then there's the ball field. Most elementary schools have something similar. So my thinking is, especially if you just have an HT, to go around various places calling into net control and get a signal check. And if you have a Go kit, then I still want you to use your HT when you arrive there, because I want to test out the HT comms from the elementary school. But I want you to go ahead and set up your Go Kit in an area that you might see as would be more apropos to setting up communications in a disaster. As an example, looking at the Longview, if I were to go to Longview Elementary, I would probably set up my canopy maybe in the grass, maybe in the parking lot right here, or this, not in the parking lot because there's going to be vehicles there. So it would be on the playground area, and with my portable antenna, and that's where I would set up my comms. If that didn't work, then I'd come over here and try it. The idea is just to see what type of success you have in setting up your Go Kit, and then talking to Net Control to get the signal reports, and all that is going to be listed in this comms value, 9 being full quieting and 1 being man, I can't hear you type of thing. And this right here represents Murray Fire Department. This is, I put this here for Murray City purposes for Joey, so that he can see which fire department station is assigned to those schools. So that's what that is. We really don't need to worry about that. This is just for Joey's benefit. But what we'll do is we'll put the name and the type of radio you have below it, whether it's an HT, the type of HT, and if you have a Go Kit. And when you go on assignment to the location, then we'll put the comms value there. And I'll actually have another form created for each elementary school with a similar diagram like this of the elementary school and the location around it. And you can mark, you'll be able to mark which areas are you sound good in. Also, know that the Safe Neighborhood assigned frequency for Murray City is this right here. That has been reserved for Murray City during the disaster. It's a simplex frequency, so that's the frequency that we want to try in all the schools into Net Control. The secondary frequency will be our 220 repeater, and right now I have a Sammy's repeater, the Sandy repeater, but we are getting Murray City is buying the 220 repeater, and we'll actually have another frequency there. But until that is all set up, we're going to use this one here. And if you don't have a 220 radio, you'll be able to borrow a radio from the station, and that's why I want you all to come to the EOC to get a 220 radio if you do not have one. And the tertiary frequency will be our normal repeater on Ensign Peak. I want to stay away from this as much as I can. This one will not be used, and this one here is assigned to us. So that's what I want to use to do that. Once we are done, once we have all of the information back, then we then return to Murray Fire Station 83, which is the EOC, which is where we always go for a club meeting, to talk about the event and possibly a treat. So that is why, again, the new form that you have also has Woodstock Elementary in there. The form that you have does not have it, so you can actually delete that email, and I'll send this to everybody that has the good information on it.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
On the bottom part after after you list the elementary schools, there's a sentence there that says it'd be nice to see the principal before we go there.
Yes.
If we don't know where we're going, that would be difficult.
This is the chicken and the egg issue here. So, yes, I'm going to reword this because when we get closer to the event, I'll actually go ahead and assign, or we can have this stuff assigned to each one of us. So thanks for that, for picking that out, Ragnar.
I like boiled eggs, by the way.
Yeah, Dan,
Yes.
we did this in Sandy a couple of years ago on the Saturday following the Great Shakeout Day,
Uh-huh.
but we were at the schools for maybe 10, 15 minutes was all. We
Yeah.
did a radio check and went home.
Right.
Like you're doing more, and it sounds like you probably ought to make sure the school is okay with you being there.
Right. This is where this the preparation comes in. What I'd like to have everybody do, if you're assigned to an elementary school, go to that elementary school, introduce yourself to the principal, tell them what you're going to be doing. If you have a Go kit, explain to them that you're going to set up a radio antenna and a Go kit, all in preparation for the Safe Neighborhood program, and ask to see their JIT kit. Make sure that it is accessible. There's some principals that will look at you like a deer in the headlight look, like, what are you talking about? That's what we need to know. We need to find out where these JIT kits are and where, if they're accessible, if there's signage out on the school. Within each JIT kit, there are like 2 or 3 signs that are, they're pilled signs that have location of the JIT kit, and you're supposed to put those on the doors, the main entrances doors, and another entrance, so that people who, well, we're going to talk about the Safe Neighborhood program in just a little bit, but the whole idea is to, the first people to arrive, they need to know where this JIT kit is. And so our part in this is to identify that the school does have a JIT kit. By the way, they all do. And to know where it's at. And to introduce yourself to the principal so that they know that you're going to set up some radio equipment. You're going to be walking around the grounds. And yeah. So that's why if you have an ID, that will be very nice to put that on there, whether it's the MARC badge you have or the Suffolk County Aries. I think something like that would be very good. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Yes, Dan, are you going to put this on this email when you send it out too, about that JIT kit and all that type stuff? So
Yeah, I'm going to reword this so that it's more explanatory. Okay.
Hey, did I miss something? Do we have a MARC ID badge?
Yes.
I'd like to get one.
Oh, we just happen to have a website for you.
Oh, okay.
Hey, there's Sherwood. Sherwood,
I just
go
need
ahead.
to go on the website and get it.
Can you see that? Lift it up.
I see it, Sherwood, yeah.
There's
So I
three.
just need to go to the website and ask for one?
There's a website that actually makes those.
Oh, got it.
As a matter of fact, we'll talk about that maybe on Sunday or next week.
Okay.
Talking about some ID badging. So anyway, any other questions on this particular event? Down here at the bottom, I just briefly showed that the Safe Neighborhood program uses the elementary schools as a hub where people in in the neighborhoods can go to if they are displaced from their home. This is not a permanent shelter, but it is a place to receive communications and whatnot. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment here. But you'll notice that the Safe Neighborhood Program has these zones. All the neighborhoods are divided up into particular zones. And each elementary school has its own zone. So Longview Elementary School, I'm in zone 33 here. This is where I live. So they do this because as we gather information about the disaster and which homes are destroyed, or you can't live in it, or there's some type of fire, or even medical reasons, they need to know really quickly where that location is. And the best way to do that, instead of giving an address, is certainly we can give the address, but it'll also be referenced with the zone number. And I'm creating maps for our state that has all the zones for the elementary schools, and I'm setting it up so that anybody in this zone it'll say Murray LV for Longview -29. So it doesn't matter where you are in the city, you will know exactly where this zone is just by those coordinates, Murray LV 29.
Is this sponsored by Murray City Fire, or is it County Aries, or is it State EOC, or what is this?
This is sponsored by Salt Lake County Emergency Management.
Cool.
Right from downtown Salt Lake City is where this is headed up at.
Okay.
Utah County doesn't have this. This is Salt Lake County only, which I think is interesting. But this is how Salt Lake County is going to identify the trouble spots, and the fire departments have this information, or at least they should have this information, because we all have to work on the same lingo. We have to have the same dialogue. We have to have the same language. If I use GPS coordinates and someone else uses the safe neighborhood zone numbers and someone else uses addresses, there's going to be confusion. So they want to standardize on that. So anyway, any further questions on this? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And oh, by the way, let me share this again. Share screen 1, share. Okay, so here is a map of Murray City, and you can see all of the elementary schools are floating around in all parts, including Woodstock. Why do you think they used elementary schools instead of high schools or junior high schools for this program? Anybody have any idea?
Bomb shelters?
No.
There are more of them within the community.
There are more of them. Most people know where their local elementary school is because they probably have kids that went to them.
They're typically in the middle of a neighborhood, whereas high schools kind of are out on a big street somewhere.
Exactly. So good answers. So there's what Murray City looks like and the elementary schools that are around here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm getting ready to do this presentation. So I'm going to talk about the Safe Neighborhood Program just to give a highlighted view of what it is in case you're hearing about this for the first time. So I'm going to let's see. I need to swap presenter slides. And can people see my screen? Probably not. Zoom meeting. Let me share my screen. And screen 1, share computer sound, and share. Okay, can everybody see the
Yes.
Safe Neighborhood Program? Okay, great. So Safe Neighborhood, SAFE stands for Schools Aid Families in Emergencies. And it's a program that Salt Lake County has adopted to perform something very, very important. So we're going to talk about what the Safe Neighborhood Program is. So and this is actually in a course, a series with a notebook and a workbook, but I'm just going to give a brief synopsis on all of this. So the Safe Neighborhood's purpose is to help individuals, families, and neighborhoods to be prepared. By the end of what we're going to talk about today, everybody should be able to provide an overview of what Safe Neighborhood Program is. You should be able to tell all about it to your neighbor. You should have a general understanding of how disasters impact a community. You should be able to demonstrate awareness of governmental and nonprofit organization response to disasters, and promote understanding for how to be prepared individually as well as a neighborhood, prepare as a neighborhood for disasters. So this presentation will be divided up into a number of sections. The first one is the impacts of the disaster, and then the program concepts, the neighborhood and emergency response, personal preparedness, and next steps. We're not going to go through all of them tonight. This is I'm just going to do the first part of it that is pertinent to what we are going to be dealing with. So let's first talk about the impacts of a disaster. Disasters can influence a community in many ways, directly and indirectly. So where are we in the disaster cycle? What types of disasters could occur in our area? Safe Neighborhoods currently operates in the preparation phase, but will ideally assist the neighborhood in every stage. By understanding what the Safe Neighborhood Program is, you'll be able to get help on all of these sections here. Now that we have a understanding of the different types of disasters and needs that Utah may have, let's look at one of the biggest threats, a 7.x earthquake. So I'm going to run this, and hopefully you guys can hear this. Okay, right now there's no sound.
It's a cold winter day in Utah. Along the Wasatch Front, hundreds of thousands of people are busy at work. Many of them are commuting to jobs in different counties, far from where they live. 80% of the state's 2.7 million people live and work in the region.
Just a quick note, can everybody hear the sound on my computer?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Today, these families and many others across the region will be separated. The largest earthquake to hit Utah in modern times has just begun. The rupture travels approximately 25 miles north along the Wasatch Fault. Some react appropriately, others don't. over 10,000 buildings collapse. The shaking lasts for nearly a minute in some areas, damaging 285,000 buildings. Even in buildings that are not damaged, possessions fall down or are thrown across rooms. Infrastructure is destroyed. Utilities throughout Utah are disrupted. 2,300 people will die. 30,000 people will be injured. And $35 billion in building damages will occur. Finally, the shaking is over. A large number of people are trapped in collapsed buildings. Over 160 fires start, some turning into conflagrations. Hundreds of thousands of people are trying to use their phones, causing the system to become overloaded. In the months ahead, there will be tens of thousands of aftershocks. Residents will struggle to recover from the earthquake. There will be no water for weeks or months and no electricity. Traveling around town will be more difficult and time-consuming, and 350,000 people will be displaced from their homes. We are all in this together. We will all suffer the earthquake's consequences if most of us do nothing now. How quickly you will recover from this disaster is up to you and those around you. Your level of personal preparedness will determine your quality of life after the quake. Here are a few things you can do to prepare. It's a good idea to have a fire extinguisher, a first aid kit, and at least a 3-day supply of water for each person in your household. Have an emergency plan and decide where you will meet up with your family after an earthquake. Make sure there is a person out of town you can contact to let your loved ones know that you're okay. When remodeling your older brick home, consult a professional engineer or the Utah Guide for the Seismic Improvement of Unreinforced Masonry Dwellings. Consider whether earthquake insurance makes sense for you as part of your financial plan. You should also secure furniture, your hot water heater, and heavy or valuable items so they won't fall. Preparedness is not only for the home, but also for business. Be sure that your company has emergency plans for a major earthquake. Empower yourself and your family. Be prepared. For more information, visit www.bereadyutah.gov.
That's a sobering thought there. Oh, and by the way, all of these estimations are based on a 7.0 earthquake. You need to remember that the value there, the 7, is off the Richter scale, and it is logarithmic, meaning that a 7.1 is 10 times more powerful than a 7.0. A 7.2 is 10 times more powerful than a 7.1. If we have a 7.5, you can imagine how bad it's going to be. Having gone through one 7.5 and one 7.4 earthquake, I know what's going to happen, and that's one of the main reasons why I started getting into ham radio, because I, like all of you guys, I wanted to be part of the solution. So here's a diagram of part of the Salt Lake County after a 7.0 earthquake, and you can see where the fault line is and all the red homes there, which are there'll be 70 to 100% of those homes being destroyed or uninhabitable. The yellow ones, which is where most of we live here in Murray, between 30 and 70% of probability of our homes will be destroyed. So yellow is still not good. The thing with earthquakes is your house could be just fine and your neighbors could be totally demolished, or vice versa. So And I don't, there's a few black ones out there. Black is completely destroyed. You can see those little black dots every once in a while. So a earthquake is a serious business. So one of the things that we learned in the video is there's going to be at least 350,000 people will be displaced. 80 to 85% of homes will sustain moderate to severe damage. Many roads will be impassable. As a matter of fact, what used to be landmarks will no longer be there. Basic services will be interrupted for weeks or months, including water, sewer, gas, electricity, and phones. People, we are on our own when it happens. So we as residents and neighbors must be prepared to support ourselves for at least the first 96 hours and possibly a whole lot longer. So we'll go on here. There's a lot of impacts and disruptions that will affect our neighborhoods. The impacts and disruptions and needs for our neighborhoods, I'm just going to name a few, are reunification of households and loved ones, care for the elderly, children and pets. Obviously, there'll be no basic utilities for a long time. The banking system will be offline. The ability to work and earn money and pay bills will be severely hampered. The food supply chain will be disrupted. Communication systems will be down. There'll be no fuel. Shelter is going to be at a premium, and transportation is going to be highly impacted. There's going to be sanitation disruption, talking about the public health, how it'll be impacted. Oral and fecal disease will be rampant. Bodies will become vectors for disease. And when I say bodies, there's going to be a lot of dead after this event. There's going to be environmental hazards. The health care, of course, will be overloaded. There's going to be shortages of beds at the hospitals. You will also have hot-cold related illnesses or injuries. Everybody is hoping that the earthquake will happen on a nice spring morning, but it could happen right in the middle of a horrible blizzard. So that's going to augment the pain and suffering for our neighbors. So our neighborhoods are meant with this program to support efforts immediately after the destruction and until outside help can arrive. So this neighborhood program, I think, is very, very important thing to consider. The Safe Neighborhood Program prepares individuals, households, and neighborhoods to manage our own emergency response. That's the whole idea behind the Safe Neighborhood Program. This response includes reunification, reception, sheltering, communication, and evacuation. So the Safe Neighborhood was developed through a partnership with the American Red Cross, our local government, and the school districts as a way to train neighborhoods to open, staff, and operate their own evacuation hub until outside help can arrive. Safe Neighborhoods was created to help neighborhood residents prepare for catastrophic earthquakes here in Utah. After such an event, the number of people in need will overwhelm local emergency response resources. Those resources could be strained for an extended period due to compromised transportation corridors and other damaged infrastructure. The Safe Neighborhood Program is then meant to help individuals and neighborhoods prepare for an emergency response plan before a disaster strikes. This plan will allow individuals and neighborhoods to meet their own needs immediately after a catastrophic event. The neighborhood school provides a temporary shelter, a source of information, and a transportation hub for family reunification. The school is an evacuation hub for those who must leave their homes. It must not serve as a long-term shelter. It is a place where immediate needs can be met until outside help and resources become available. And those resources may also include, and probably will include, resources from your neighbors. The church, of course, is going to be involved heavily with this, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So the public message for the Safe Neighborhood program, and you'll start seeing signs all over the place, is grab your kit, walk to school. And that, of course, is after a catastrophic event. Neighbor helping neighbor is another mantra that is part of the Safe Neighborhood program. And obviously that means that people will use our own skills and resources to help those in need, which improves individual outcomes. So for the program to be successful, individuals and households must be prepared. We also need to have community support. Volunteers need to be recruited and trained in each school neighborhood. Neighborhoods should take advantage of opportunities to exercise the Safe Neighborhoods program by coordinating with their emergency manager. Trivia question: who is Murray City's emergency manager? Go ahead and unmute your mic and tell me what you think.
I'm going to say Joey.
Okay. Anybody else? Mac? Who's the emergency manager?
Say Joey, he's my boss.
About the mayor.
Was that a snicker I heard? No, the emergency manager is the fire chief. And Joey is the assistant fire chief, so he is highly involved with this. As a matter of fact, the fire chief may have given him the responsibility. Mac, do you know for sure?
Yeah, Joey's acting as our emergency manager.
Okay, well, there you
So
go.
the chief has that, but he's delegated. Joey is pretty much the emergency manager by delegation.
Okay, great. And that sometimes happens in other locations, so I figured that was the case here as well. So, part of a successful program is also contingent upon participation in exercises, which is what we are, as a Murray Amateur Radio Club, want to do with this Salt Lake County Aries / Safe Neighborhood event and practice on the communications. Now, the fourth bullet point is important. One way that the program works is you can join organizations, community organizations like the Red Cross, be a CERT participant, a Red Cross volunteer. Boy, there's all kinds of things that you can do. Be a shelter manager to help with, to be part of the solution. And so affiliate yourself with other organizations. I know many of you have already become CERT certified, and that's fantastic. Mac, we have a number of the Murray Amateur Radio Club members CERT certified, and we probably like to get as many other people that can also involved with CERT. No, and here's something that's important. No single organization or individual can make this program successful. We all bring specific skills and resources that make this program successful. So this is one of the things where the more people we have, the more resources, the more training we all have, the better this program and the better our neighborhood will be. So this is the last section I'm going to talk about, and that is the neighborhood and emergency response. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Emergency management has a role to provide services to their jurisdiction. Sometimes there are severe limitations in being able to provide those services, as you might expect. During a disaster, their objective will be to get services to the areas with the greatest need. They will try to be as efficient as possible in their response. And part of the objectives of the emergency management is obviously to identify the neighborhoods with the greatest impact and need, send support to those areas first. And this is why it's going to take a long time for local support services to come in our neighborhood if our neighborhoods wasn't impacted as much. That's not to say that we're not going to have the need. I mean, we could still have fires in homes, and there could be 1082 echoes in our midst. These are people who are dead. There's going to be severe injuries that we will not be able to call 911 because there will be no 911 service. The fire department is going to, with the help of communications, find out where the greatest need is, and the rest of us is going to have to wait. And you know what? It might be that they can't even get out of their fire station because the door may be completely stuck. They may have to crash through the doors to release the fire engines. And hopefully the roads that the fire trucks will be on are passable. So these people who have not been through a heavy earthquake have no idea the chaos that's going to ensue. And this is the thing that scares me most of all, because I've been through two of them. I've seen what Utah is going to experience. And unless you've done that, you don't realize that the roads that are in front of your house, they may not be there. It may be impassable. There are so many variables in a 7.x earthquake. So anyway, the objective of emergency management is try to help as many people as possible. They're going to have to make decisions. They're going to have to triage the city. And if you ever deal with a triage situation, you know that there's going to be people that'll be red tagged that we just can't help, and they are going to perish. The emergency room physicians know all about this. The IHC hospital and all the other hospitals, they go through triage scenarios where they tag and bag, and it's a tough situation to be in, and those doctors have to make life and death situations. And I may be one of the guys who the ER doctor says, we don't have enough to help him, we need to save this for other people, and I could perish. And same thing with everybody else. So in a catastrophic event, which is what we're talking about, our lives will be different for sure. So this is just a diagram of a number of emergency support functions. That's what ESF stands for, emergency support functions, and what their role is. And I'm not going to get into that. I think the next slide is more apropos to what our discussion is today. The Safe Neighborhoods is designed to complement personal preparedness. That's obviously the foundation of the Safe Neighborhood program. Your well-being depends on you. Personal preparedness is a foundation. Then we have existing programs. You have the CERT program. We have our ham radios, Red Cross, church plans, block plans, business plans, etc. And then on top of that, we have the safe neighborhood areas, including, and within the safe neighborhood, we have these components. Household reunification is a big one. Communication, situational awareness, public information, transportation, mass care coordination, and resource provision. All these are components of the safe neighborhood. And let's see, I'm just going to just go through these bullets real quick. The objectives for our neighborhood then will be to assess the impact and needs of our neighborhood, establish a predictable reception area for displaced people. That could be at the church or the elementary school. Facilitate household reunification. If you remember in the video, it could happen during school hours. So our kids are going to be at the school already. People will be at work, people will be on the road, people will be on vacation, people will be living their normal life. How do we get all the families back together again if you don't have a cell phone? That is a predicament that people are going to have to deal with. We have to coordinate efforts ourselves as a neighborhood to meet basic human needs. Assist in the coordination of medical needs, transportation, communication, and public information, and coordinate with citizen response plans and in partnership with non-governmental organizations, school districts, and government entities. So here's the three main goals of the neighborhood response: shelter and human needs, reunification, and communication. So as you might suspect, communication is a key link in this whole thing. I've only gone through 20 of 60 slides, and I'm going to stop here because our time is quickly coming to an end. But I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to open it up for discussion. Any ideas, any comments of what you've seen tonight?
Well, I have been in an emergency back in Charleston, South Carolina, Hurricane Hugo. It wasn't an earthquake, but the damage that was there was big.
Yeah.
I mean, houses leveled, moved, streets you couldn't travel on, all that kind of stuff. Well, I've kind of seen that too, and well, this was a good presentation tonight. I was glad to be part of it because I understand the need for being able to help others as well.
And this is why we are having this Salt Lake County Aries / Safe Neighborhood event to start in on getting ready for this. I'd like to have John, the creator of the Safe Neighborhood program, come and actually do a presentation for our neighborhood. And this COVID-19 thing is a killer, which something that sometimes happens during emergencies. The first emergency spawns other emergencies, and many times the earthquake, we may have an initial 3,000 people dead, fatalities, but because of the lack of sanitation and power and clean water, dysentery starts happening. We could have 10,000 people, 30,000 people die for the effects of not having clean sanitation. So sometimes these effects augment each other and they compound on top of one another. It's exactly what happened with Hurricane Katrina. And all the big hurricanes, you have the disaster itself, but then you have the aftermath. And that's where the sickness starts happening. And people die as a result of it. Look at the 9/11 disaster. We had almost 3,000 people die in the initial impact, but how many people's lives were affected after the fact? Tens of thousands. So, any other? Yes, Ragnar.
I had a comment. I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield in the 80s and 90s, and we met a lot of we met with a lot of hospital staffs and administrators. Anyway, part of our Aries program, or the Salt Lake County Aries then, was to set up a floor. We had a chance to set up a floor at St. Mark's on 39th there. So we used a lot of that facility for training and such. Anyway, very supportive. They were very supportive. And part of the reason was that we tried a few things and showed them what worked, and their items didn't work, like communicating between one floor and another floor. I mean, none of their systems would do that, so we used the ham radio on different floors. But anyway, we worked with a lot of the doctors and setting up programs, and none of it was totally accepted by the county because they just sort of boo-hooed it. And what you were mentioning was the main fact, because we looked, the figures 20, 30 years ago were almost the same. I think it was 2,000 dead and 25,000 injured. Well, now it's 23 and 30. Well, the hospital beds in the whole valley can't even hold 1,000 for emergency.
Right.
And we're talking 30,000. And if you look at infection rates in hospitals, it's pretty high now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if some of the infrastructure is destroyed there, that, and just what you were mentioning, the infections, secondary infections, no clean water, they don't have any way of getting clean products to the emergency area. I mean, it's, that's where I really noticed that that's where the big problem would be. It's the secondary things, like you said. All these people are injured and cut and all that. Well, if they don't have the proper sanitary facilities to help these people that are injured out, it's just going to be compounded, because get the infections in a few days. It's, and then the weather component, are we freezing to death or are we melting? It's, you don't know. It's, March day is not the ideal day for things to happen. They usually don't happen then. It's the middle of the night or anything. So it's, but anyway, I don't see, like in our neighborhood, I've been told things have been taken care of as far as communications. It hasn't. I talked to my neighbors and nobody's planning anything. There's nothing. It's like nothing's been brought to them.
Right.
I don't know how you're going to do that. Like in your neighborhood, what are you going to do? How are you going to open people? How are you going to open this up to people? I don't know. What are you going to do? Have you got some good ideas along those lines?
Well, I am planning on going to, I want this to be a neighborhood project, and probably the best way to get word out is using the church, and disseminate a time when we're going to have a Zoom meeting where I can give these presentations, where John Floyd can come down and give these presentations. He doesn't have to leave his office down in Salt Lake. He can do it right from there. We need to get the word out, and that's the, I've been through a number of presentations that John personally gave, and I was appalled at how many empty seats were in the auditorium. He would, a couple years ago, he would give these presentations in school auditoriums, and there might have been a dozen people there, and the place was supposed to have been packed, So getting the word out is going to be very, very difficult, and it'll require every single one of us to understand it ourselves, and ask your neighbor, hey, have you heard about the Safe Neighborhood Program? Do you know what's going to happen when the earthquake happens? Where do we get the information? How do we find out where our loved ones are? The problem is people don't understand how bad it's going to be. And because they don't understand, the reunification issue is going to be humongous. They're not going to know where their loved ones are. That's why it's so important that part of this the Safe Neighborhood Program on the reunification piece of it is to fill out the Red Cross Safe and Wellness forms, which Salt Lake County Aries is going to be dealing with and sending it into the database in Las Vegas and Washington, D.C., using ham radios probably. And when we go from house to house to find out the status of each person in these zones, part of that is going to fill out the Safe and Wellness form, so that when it's downloaded up to the database for the Red Cross, people anywhere in the U.S. can go into the Red Cross database, and there's a link you can click on in the upper right-hand corner that I think it says reunification or something like that, and it will, based on the last name and some other things, you'll be able to find out the status of your loved ones or your friends, because we're not going to have any communications. The cell phones aren't going to be there, and that's a huge problem. Just the reunification part, and I'm not even talking about the basic human needs and the other stuff that happens within a massive disaster. So yeah, we need to get the word out, and everybody needs to be trained in all of this, and it starts tonight, right?
Amen.
You've got a big fight ahead of you, though, because there are a lot of people that don't want to hear about it to begin with. They don't want to be scared about things that might happen someday.
Yeah. People who live in Kansas, they know a tornado is going to screw up their life at least 3-4 times in their lifetime. People in Utah, the last time we had a 7X event was 350 years ago. So Brigham Young, when he arrived, it happened 150 years before he arrived. And so, nobody in Utah, if you've been born in Utah, they don't have a clue. And that's the sorry thing about it is, and you can only help people that want to help themselves. People who do not want to be helped, those are the people that I write off. I say good luck, and have a great life after the earthquake. I'm more interested in helping people who are interested in helping themselves. Those people we can reach, and one of the things I've been doing in my own neighborhood is I've been going around asking to do an earthquake assessment on their house, and take a look at the basic stuff, the hot water heater, any large piece of furniture, and I describe to them what you need to do then to fix it so that it doesn't come falling down on you. Your house may survive the earthquake, but that 80-inch television could be thrown into your lap, and you could be killed from incidental stuff that is preventable. And people who want to prepare will prepare. People who don't want to prepare, who think that it'll never happen because it hasn't happened yet, but what they don't understand, it happens all the time, just in a window that is generations long, right? So, and that's the big problem with Utah.
So Dan, how do you present yourself, and how are you being welcomed? Do people want to participate with that, or do they say, well, who are you, and I don't want to do this?
I have, generally speaking, I have a lot of good response, because one of the things that helps with my credibility is I've experienced two 7.x earthquakes, and I know what's coming, and I can describe to you what will happen. And people are much willing to listen to somebody who has gone through it than just somebody who hasn't been through. I mean, this is why John Floyd, who is the author of the Safe Neighborhood Program for Salt Lake County, he lives in Kansas. He grew up in Kansas, and he's been through I don't know how many tornadoes. They live with that, and so he's coming from an area. He's coming from an experienced level where he knows what it's like to lose entire neighborhoods and to lose power for a month at a time. He's done that, seen it, has the T-shirt. So I think that is important to bestow confidence in your message, and that's one of the things that has helped me is I'm speaking from experience, and I'm scared to death of what is coming. You know, here's the thing: it may not happen for another 50 years, but the closer we get, every year we get. Case in point, 10 years ago, it was 1 in 10 chance of the earthquake happening. Today, it's a 50-50 chance. Every day, it's a flip of a coin. The closer we get to that 400 years, the pressure has to let go at some point. And that pressure over at least 10,000 years, just by the history in the rock, we've seen that it happens every 350 to 400 years, you know? And so it's going to happen. It could happen tonight. It could happen 12 years from now, you know? So.
Well, I've seen a number of presentations similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you completely. There seems to be a political, if you want to call it that, component that I don't think anyone's addressed. Or it's a problem that hasn't been solved. You talk about the church, you're talking about the LDS church, I would assume. Mm-hmm. And that's good and that's bad. I mean, the presentation I'd heard from the folks in Cottonwood Heights, their emergency districts are the LDS stakes. And I asked him, well, so how, what's the church buy-in up there? He says, well, we've got 4 out of 5 that are in on this. But the bishops and the stake presidents get changed every now and again, and some will be involved and some will not. We had Kelly come down to the Citizens Corps meeting in Sandy, and Sandy doesn't want anything to do with the LDS Church. I mean, they're not opposed to it. They can do their thing and we'll do our thing. And but it was kind of a ho-hum audience when he made the presentation. And this was a couple years ago on Safe Neighborhoods. You know, he went through the pitch and told us all what it was. And a lot of people walked out of that meeting scratching their head and said, interesting. I wonder what we're going to do with this. And I haven't seen that hurdle's been overcome yet.
Yeah. And until people get a clue about the potential of disasters in our lifetimes, and the sooner we prepare for it, the better, you know, we're going to have that problem. And that's one of the things, you know, in Utah, it's kind of, there's a church dynamic that is also involved with other parts of the country, with other churches, but in Utah, it's the LDS Church. And I'm sorry, if you're listening to conference, it's Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you listen to conference, you know what I'm talking about. So in my stake plan that I put together, the emergency response plan for the Murray Little Cottonwood stake, I incorporated the Safe Neighborhood Program in there. And I think it's a brilliant solution to combining church and state, because in the stake plan, it's all about our neighbors. I don't rely on the home teaching program. That is the very bottom of the list of the responsibilities of members of your neighborhood. I'm more interested in neighbor helping neighbor. I don't care if you're a Buddhist or an atheist or a member in good standing or an apostate. I don't care. The program does not care. Everybody is a human being. It's like Black Lives Matter. Well, people, all lives matter when it comes to this. And so my program is built around that. And that's why I think it's a great system that incorporates the Safe Neighborhood Program, as well as what the church is responsible for. You know, the church has a built-in system. Why not use it? If you can. But the thing that happens is people who are not members of the church, they feel alienated from their neighborhoods, and that is unfortunate. And that's something that we today, we need to. And I don't care if you're a member of the church or not. We need to be neighborly to our neighbors, right? We need to be Christians or a Muslim in good standing. You know, every religion has their neighbor as being very important to them. You know, their fellow human being. I don't care what religion it is or no religion. I think people who are non-religious, they also have the same morality, right? And so, that's what we need to do here. Anyway, I talked too long. Anybody have any comments or questions before we are done for this evening? And with that, I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks everybody for joining tonight's presentation. I will send this recording to Jan, and so he can post it up to the website. And I don't know when that's going to happen, but it'll be there at some point.